Welcome back to another episode of the Boomer Bust on the Boomer Bust channel. I'm your host, Terry, and today we are talking about interior offensive linemen. And so not too many, again, trying to stay with basically like top 50 to 75 players. And interior linemen are always kind of later round players, especially centers. So I might come back. Hopefully I get a chance to do a second round and do some more deeper cuts, but kind of the top guys. One thing I like about this group and the O-line group in general is that you got a lot of guys that have some versatile experience. A number of these interior guys that project as guards play games at tackle, or you have even some of the top tackle people who play some games at guard, and some even full season. So I like that. You always like to have somebody that's five tool, as they say. I wouldn't say like they can play every position adequately, but you just want somebody that understands the mechanics of what the other people on the line are doing. And you get guys like a Zach Martin, who came out of Notre Dame, and he was a five-tool lineman, ended up just playing left guard, majority of his career. But you know that in pinches, you could use him if you need to. And there's a number of guys that come out like that, and I think we got a good group of that as well. Similar to what I've talked about with the tackles, I've really evolved the idea of technique versus, just your intangible skills. And not even just that, but what's your floor versus your ceiling, and adjusted what I value in that. I'm going to have guys that are my favorite, but again, I'm not trying to project who's going where. I'm not trying to do any of that. I'm just really kind of telling you the player they are. And the biggest piece that comes into play is where they go. So there's that. But the same thing with the interior linemen. It's like, okay, some of these guys might not be refined, but what do they bring into the table? So Kenyon Green from Texas A&M, I think, might be consensus number one guard. And depending on some of those tackles, if you project them as guards or not. But either way, he's a good example. Now, this is a guy that I think is pretty much upside. The technique is not there for me, and anything he really does. He's a mauler and a hugger, pretty much in every sense of the word. I don't like where his hands are. He's typically trying to grab people, trying to throw them out of the way. And look, he's a big boy. He's got the natural strength. You can see through his build. He's got he's power. He's definitely a power blocker. But again, I think he's one of those that leans too much on that and hasn't really cleaned up any of his technique. And then I like his foot quickness, his ability to move. But as far as just overall athlete, he's limited. He's not a guy that I think is going to be great in space, and I don't think he's going to be necessarily great being able to help block in the pass protection. But he's power, so you take that for what it is. You know that as a guard inside, you're going to have two guys to help you block, and maybe he's on the right side. Maybe you don't run screens to that. Again, that's all about what you pick him and what you or who picks him and what they ask him to do. So overall, that's the kind of guy I think he is. Natural power, natural size, and needs better technique. But overall, I think a guy that people probably won't pass up just because of his sheer size, which you can't teach. All right, so then we got Tyler Lindenbaum from Iowa Center. And, it's hard not to say Garrett Bradberry from North Carolina State. That's exactly who I see. A guy that is definitely on the undersized, just with the arms, especially with offensive line. People love the extension. So definitely a guy people will call undersized, but extremely athletic blocker, extremely quick. He might be even a tad bit quicker than Bradberry, some of the stuff I've seen him do. So when you think about zone, outside zone especially, when you think about any type of reach block, when you think about screen game, getting in space, this is a guy that you're going to love. Now, what you're not going to love is that his anchor is, I love his technique, and I think he can handle himself, but it's not going to be what you love in the NFL. Him going one-on-one with some of the guys in the NFL, he's going to have to put the pocket push back on him. So will the quarterback. And that's exactly what we end up seeing with Bradberry. Again, not to say that he's not good, but it's all about what you ask him to do. In that zone scheme with the Vikings, he does really well, but there's certain moments in pass protection where against certain guys, he's just not going to hold up. But I think he's got some power to him, but I don't think he has the natural lower body power. And look, you could get bigger and stronger, so that definitely could come. And there's guys that are undersized that are really strong, but I think Tyler is more in the athletic side than he is with the power side. All right, so then we go to Zion Johnson out of Boston College, and a lot of people are really high on him. I think he's got really good tools, really, really good tools. But I think he's definitely going to need to polish up his technique as well to reach his full potential. You get a guy like Keon Green, on the baseline, what he's going to be able to do, even if he doesn't improve, ever. But Zion Johnson, I think, is a guy that could really be versatile for you. You gotta just work with him and clean up his technique. Pretty good athlete for his size. I like his foot quickness. He's a guy like most linemen. He has stiff hips, though. I don't think, his lateral movement is as great as him going, north and south. But the thing about that is it hurts when you're talking about pass protection, sort protection. And so when you're uncovered and you gotta, get left to right and find blocks, some of those guys with stiff hips, they don't have great range. And I didn't really like his awareness either. I felt like he was just kind of standing there blocking nothing a lot of times. But when he did come to help block, he's a guy with natural strength that could really knock somebody out. And so, yeah, he played some tackle. So I think, again, guys like this, when you get them inside in the interior, they really shine because it's it's not even half the job is playing the tackle. So if you do solid at tackle, then being inside as far as staying with defenders, I think you're a good fit. Now him and some other guys, I think before you go into contact, mirroring a defender, being able to stay in front of them, that's cool, play basketball. But like a lot of guys, once he gets into contact, I think he stops his feet. He leans a little too much and tries to use his strength rather than moving his feet and staying with the block. And so similar to Kenyon, I think just leaning on his natural strength a little too often. But in the run game, I think he's a plus blocker. I think his hand placement is better than Green. His hands get wide on the shoulders, but he doesn't hug people. He likes to at least try to stay within the frame. And in space, I like him in space, but I like his athleticism to get in space. He needs to come a little more control and imbalance to actually make those blocks. But zone blocking, double team blocking, I think that's where he really shines as a run blocker. He really understands those angles. He really understands what the scheme is. And so I think for me, his run blocking is definitely better than his pass blocking. All right, going to go down to Sean Ryan from UCLA. He played left tackle, but 100% will be a guard, I think. Some people might try to do him at right tackle, but he's got really stiff hips. This is a limited athlete to me. I think he worked to get into pass protection and to, I think, be solid out there on the edge, but overall, he's definitely not made to be a tackle to me. just a very limited athlete as far as where he can get. And so I think him kicking inside is going to be really good for him. That ability to work with defenders in a smaller space, I think he's going to show up to improve to be really improved in pass protection than he was as a tackle. But a guy that's going to have some issue with speed, but natural strength. I think his anchor's pretty good. The only thing about him is I wonder about his balance. He fell off blocks, and that's never a good thing that you want to see. So I wonder about his balance and his core. But overall, I think, again, you got a guy that's more of a power guy, more of a mauler, and that's going to be a plus in the run game. And I think he's going to be pretty solid in the pass game as well. Then we got Jamari Sailor from Georgia. And I really liked him. I really, really liked him. And I'm wondering if it's going to be one of those situations, because there is every year where there's a person that I like more than the rest of the community likes, and we'll see what happens. But I thought he was really good at left tackle. And thinking about him being a guard is just, I think he has a great ceiling. His technique is just strong. His hand placement, his kick slide out in pass protection, his ability to stay with the block. And again, you talk about moving that into a smaller space. I think he's going to be great. His athleticism, for as big as he is crazy. Now, the thing about him is that he's pretty top heavy. If you look at him, he's kind of got narrow waist, pretty top heavy. And so that good foot quickness, again, really good athlete, can get out in space. The question is he going to be able to, A, stay balanced when he comes to a blocking space? Because, again, I think he got there pretty well, and I think he does well when he makes contact. But I think sometimes he overshoots a little bit because, he's a lineman. He's moving downhill. He can't really slow down and change direction. So he's got that downhill speed, but not that lateral agility. And so that's number one. And then number two, how will he anchor against straight power? Excuse me. He's got good, again, technique, but he gives up a lot of ground because I just don't think he has the lower body strength of some of these other guys. So depending on what you ask him to do, though, I think he's going to be a steal for somebody in this draft. And then lastly, we got Darion Canard from Kentucky. Another person that some people are high on, I think, and another guy that some people might try to tackle. 6'5", 345, really big dude. For me, I mean, he's kind of like Kenyon Green a little bit, but not a worse athlete. It's just kind of one of those, those classic prototypes. He's a power guy. He's a mauler. Not a lot of athleticism. Not going to really get out of space. Not going to give you much there. Pass blocking wise, he's going to need some help. And especially if you try to keep him at tackle. And then run blocking, he's going to move people just naturally. And so he's kind of one of those guys you put out there, and he's going to take up space, and he's going to give you some benefit in the run game. But I don't know how high his ceiling is, which doesn't mean, again, especially at guard, that you can't be an effective player. But I don't know how good he can be with such limited athleticism. And I think that there might be some questions, just like him in the tackle from Minnesota, that you might have to get him in a little better shape if you want to keep him on the field the whole game. So anyway, so those are kind of the guys I looked at. That's what I'm thinking. I think it's a solid class. Offensive line wise. Yeah, overall, I think it's a solid class. I have to watch the rest of the draft to see like where people might go, look at the rest of the prospects. But right now, offensive wise, it's not a ton of like top tier people, quarterback, running back, receiver, tight end wise. So I think offensive line is going to get some love, but it might be a more heavy defensive drive. But I'll see once I get through the other prospects. So anyway, that's it for me. Go down in the comment section. Let me know what you think. Share it around. Get the conversation started. Thumbs up, subscribe, and thank you for listening.